Sir, I have nothing more to say to you, sir. You requested my supervisor. You can have the conversation with them now. Sarge Frangione is on his way.
Okay.
Speeding 57 and a 40. Texting while driving. Failure to produce his registration when I asked. He told me I could look it up.
Okay. You know who he is,
Yes.
right? Yeah, you got identified him?
Yes.
Okay. So you're just going to stay by to cite him, or is that what
He already got cited.
Oh, he has already
Yeah.
the citation. So he just...
From the moment I woke up.
So you're just waiting for...
He's waiting for supervisor, and I guess he spoke to Frangione, so Frangione is on his way.
Okay.
Bobby just pulled up.
Okay.
I kind of hate that bit when the other officer is like, you know who he is, right? That lets you know that Martin Hyde's behaviours, the narcissistic behaviours and his manipulation tactics has obviously been successful before in these types of scenarios, that has gotten him off the hook and he's been able to assert and gain control and get fuel from officers and other people. And this other officer, to some degree, I'm going to say probably buys into that, which hopefully I'm wrong, but I just find it strange. Why would he say that? Otherwise, who cares who he is? You know, he's broke the law. Why would that matter? It's irrelevant, really.
Hello, Mr. Hyde? I guess you talked to Sergeant Frangione by the phone?
I did, yeah.
Okay, he's on his way. She requested another unit, so that's why another unit.
Someone a certificate, ticket for no registration when they've got their registration. She's trying to make her Spurs, but it's a big mistake.
Well, this one is the expired one, but...
Well, it doesn't make it. It'll take 2 seconds.
Yeah.
We're going to make sure that she pays the price for being disrespectful.
That is a brilliant example of the lack of accountability. See how easily he dismisses it when his registration, which he failed to produce initially, is actually expired. And when the police officer says it, he's like, whatever, it'll take 2 seconds. Like, what do you mean it will take 2 seconds? It's the law to have your registration up to date and not expired. But he so easily just dismisses his accountability in that, even though he's clearly in the wrong for having a registration that's expired, but that's obviously not important. Martin Hyde can obviously do no wrong. And then what you're seeing is his attempt to both triangulate this officer, the male officer, with the female officer, and gaslight by trying to make it seem as if, again, he always had this registration and he was always producing it, but for some reason she just wasn't taking it and she wrote him up a ticket anyway, which of course is him trying to rewrite history, trying to change the female police officer's version of reality or version of events, and trying to create his own and make that the narrative, make that the story. But again, there is video footage that's going to contradict that, which is why I think he is unaware of the behaviours that he actually engages in.
I just wanted you to witness it, know that the registration was right there, and she deliberately chose to write the ticket. She came up, she said, look, there's a video of it, so be quiet. There's a video of what you said.
There is.
And I've got a video of what you said. Right? Yeah. What she said was, I don't have it. She immediately said, I write your citation. She went right back. She never said anything. She went straight back. I denied the citation. She's straight back, right the seven. I've lived here for 25 years. I've represented your unit. I've got no interest in listening to you, young lady.
I was talking to my sergeant. Sergeant, if you don't mind if we could step over up the road onto the sidewalk.
Yeah, just a second, officer.
So again, gaslighting and blatant lying. And interestingly, with the triangulation, see how he says to the male officer, we're going to teach her a lesson. But he uses the pronouns we. So he's already trying to make it seem like this male officer is on his side and all these other people, the supervisor and all these other people, the chief, they're all on his side and no one's on her side. So it's just those subtle things in language that are interesting to note with things like triangulation. Calling her young lady is an attempt to devalue her, dismiss her, exert control over her. And again, he's gaslighting her version of events and gaslighting the male officer as well into attempting to have him believe his, as in Martin's, version of events over hers. And it's interesting that he talks about the video footage, because if he had any type of insight or ability to reflect or see the situation for what it was, he would know that the video footage isn't going to go with him, it's going to go against him, which again brings me back to the point of I think he's actually unaware of his behaviours and how he comes across. Imagine getting pulled over by a police officer and then calling her a young lady. It's just so disrespectful and incredibly rude, and just not even disrespecting the officer, well, obviously disrespecting her, but also disrespecting the law. And clearly, again, just those little things in language just go to show the level of narcissism that this man has.
Come on then.
Yeah, Mr. Hyde, like I said,
No.
you know...
I've represented you guys
Yes,
in
sir.
union discussions. My
Yeah.
son is a cop. I'm friends with
Yeah. Yes, sir.
everybody in the police department. This is the first time anybody has been disrespectful to me. And for what reason? I could care less. If they were given write me a ticket, I could care less. I just pay the bloody thing. You don't think I got the money? It's the manner and the nature of it.
Okay.
So that was interesting when he said, my son is a cop and I've always supported the police and blah, blah, blah. That could be a little kind of mini attempt at love bombing this male officer. So essentially just trying to get him on side, feeding him what he thinks that he will want to hear, as in Martin telling the male police officer what he thinks he'll want to hear in order for the male police officer to comply with Martin's version of events of this situation. So again, it's all about gaining control. He just wants to gain control over the situation, and he's trying to do it by any means possible. This is interesting because it actually shows the reason why he's getting so worked up wasn't about the tickets in the first place. It was about the threat to control. He says in his own words, you know, oh, like, I don't care about these tickets. I could have just paid them and moved on. Why didn't he just do that then? You know, he's made this massive ordeal about it, and not producing his registration, and then making it seem like he always had it and was always willing to produce it and blah, 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 when in reality that's not the truth at all. The truth is his control was threatened, and that's why this whole thing has came about, because of his self-entitlement, his grandiosity, his belief that he's special and that he's high status and that he should be treated as so. And this is just a massive slap in the face to his control and to his belief system that he is high status and he is special.
And like I said, Sergeant Vangione will be over here to talk to you about her interaction. I'd say.
Outrageous. Yeah. Why would you do that? Why?
And this is interesting in terms of his physical behaviour. So when the male police officer responds by saying, Sergeant, whatever his name is, you know, will be over. Again, that's quite a neutral response. He's not agreeing with him. He's not disagreeing with him. And then Martin, as a response to that, turns around and literally puts his back to him, basically disregards what the male police officer has said, and then comes back around and starts the whole spiel again. So he didn't get the response that he wanted. So now he's going to try again. And again, remember, this is all to gain control over this police officer in an attempt to triangulate and to gaslight, in a greater attempt to gain control over the entire situation.
I mean, of all the people to do it to.
Of all the people to do it to. Sense of entitlement. Grandiosity.
Yeah, I understand, sir. And, you know, I set you, you know, I've been with the negotiations with you, and I understand where you're coming from.
I don't ask for special treatment, but I don't expect to get treated like a punk.
Oh, he's actually right there. He does not ask for special treatment. He demands special treatment. And when it's not given to him, this is exactly what happens. It can also be seen as an attempt to gaslight this male police officer by using contradictory statements, which kind of confuse and divert and distract. So he's stating that he's never asked for special treatment, when clearly that is exactly what his behaviors are exhibiting. Like, it couldn't be any more obvious.
let me go talk to her and see.
Well, it's a waste of time.
Yeah.
She's got it in her head. I know exactly who she is. Rangione told me exactly who she is. That's fine. 7 years might not turn into 8.
And another attempt to gain control over this male police officer is trying to assert control via status and power and success by saying, oh, that's fine, 7 years might not turn into 8, and also stating that the chief or supervisor, whoever it was, has told him all about her, which is obviously an attempt to intimidate and kind of scare the male police officer into realizing what Martin perceives as his power and as his status, in a further attempt to triangulate them, because the male police officer, what Martin would hope, is going to think, oh Jesus, like I don't want to get in this guy's bad side. Maybe he is really powerful. Maybe I should just go along with what he wants me to do, because my career could possibly be at stake now. So it could be Martin inadvertently trying to control the male police officer in that way.
Back to the station and dock my camera.
No. He'll review it if he needs to review it. He can stop
because
it.
Sarge was already calling me to do that. He just didn't know that this is who he was.
Oh, okay.
So, but I couldn't leave until somebody was here. So just let me know what you need me to do.
Is Sergeant Frangione coming on his way here?
Yes.
He is.
Yes, he told me he was.
I just wait for him to get here and then. Well, let me give him a call real quick, because that might help matters.
Want me here or anything?
No.
Proceed to the route.
Stay in your car.
I just wanted to know if you want me to go back to the station.
You can go to the
Dock my
station.
camera.
Yep, go to the station. Hey, Martin.
You got that thing on?
Yeah, I have to leave it on.
All right, so here's the thing. She lied about the cell phone thing.
Okay.
She lied about the speed. I could care less. You can give me the ticket all day long. I could care less about that. And then I gave her the registration, and she's registration? It's in the car there somewhere. She goes off, she writes me a ticket, she brings me back a citation. I said, there it is.
Okay.
And she still gives me it.
Okay. All right.
She's being fun.
So I think this is now Officer Frangione or whatever that name was. I couldn't actually quite catch it, but I think he is like the chief officer. So immediately when he comes over, Martin is asking him to turn off the camera, which I think you don't need to be a rocket scientist to know that it's illegal for a police officer to be turning off their cameras. Martin Hyde obviously knows that, but again, his sense of entitlement, his belief that he's special and high status, means that he thinks he would be somehow given a pass for that. And why would he want it to be turned off? He obviously wants to speak to him in a way that he feels like he can't speak if the camera is on, which is suspicious. So complete chronic lies and an attempt to gaslight this chief officer and an attempt to triangulate the chief officer, Martin himself, and the female officer. So an attempt to pit these two people together. So he's going to try his best to get this chief officer on his side. And he's gaslighting by completely distorting reality and chronically lying by saying like, oh, I said, oh, it's in my car somewhere. He never said that. That never happened. And he's making it seem like the police officer never asked him multiple times to produce the registration. So again, rewriting history, trying to get this chief officer to believe his version of events. And you can also see with the speeding, he's saying like, oh, couldn't care less. He's not actually taking accountability for it. Now he's trying to diminish it and dismiss it, when in reality, if it wasn't that big a deal, then this whole thing shouldn't have happened. This shouldn't be a big deal. That goes back to my point about it being about control. It's not about the tickets at all.
And the thing is, I appreciate that. I back you guys left, right, and centre.
I understand that. I do. Trust me, I do
And
know
I
that.
don't expect better treatment, but I don't expect worse treatment. If that's how you treat people, that's unacceptable.
I understand your frustration.
Projection. So saying that if that's how you treat people, preluding to the fact that she was really rude and treated him exceptionally badly, when obviously the reverse is clearly true. So he's projecting his behaviours onto the female police officer because his control was threatened, and he's now accusing her of all of the things that he did. And initially at the start of the clip, there's a little bit of love bombing there as well, when he's like, I back you guys left, right and centre, again to try to make it more likely that this chief officer is going to go along with his version of reality and his version of events and back him up instead of backing up the police officer.
And I can get the video and I can play it to the mayor. I understand it.
And that's an attempt to triangulate the chief officer with the mayor. So he's threatening that he's going to get this video footage, which clearly shows Martin to be in the wrong. But again, this is why I think, he's not aware of his own behaviours, because the video footage would be like friggin' awful. But he's using that as an attempt to control the chief officer by triangulating him with the mayor, making him kind of fearful that, well, I'm going to show this to the mayor, and then what's the mayor going to think about you because of this?
But the thing is, I don't take it kindly. She knew exactly, because I said to her, right away, I said, she's like, yeah, I know. Straight away, writing the tickets. Why?
Again, just blatant lying, saying that he said something to her, which he didn't even say what it was, just really blasé. And then I said, and then she said, yeah, I know. So he didn't even say what it was that he was saying. His lies aren't even good lies. And then to say that she said, yeah, I know, again, just complete lie. So he's attempting to now gaslight the chief officer into, again, believing his version of events. And again, attempting to triangulate the chief officer with the female officer in order for the chief officer to take Martin's side.
Well, she's a traffic officer. That's what we do. But I understand.
I understand that's what she did.
Yeah.
It's not what you do, and you know it.
And there is another example of his massive sense of grandiosity, his sense of entitlement. That's not what you do. And what he is really saying, that's not what you do to me, and you know it. That's exactly what he's saying, because remember, he's high status, he's special. This shouldn't be happening to him. He needs to be treated in a special way, not like other people. Even though he claims that he doesn't want to be treated specially, he just doesn't want to be treated worse than other people, which is obviously complete BS.
Listen, she has a job to do. I'm gonna look at the video. I understand your concerns. I'm gonna look at the video. I notified everybody in the chain of command right now. That's what I was doing. That's why I was not coming here. I thought you were gonna meet me at the station, but it's not a big deal.
So that's interesting that he says he was never actually going to come there. So I'm guessing the calls from the other officers prompted him to actually go there to the scene because of how difficult Martin was being. So that puts a bit of a hole in Martin's story of, that he can just call these people and they can just come wherever he needs them to be, kind of thing, which leans back to exaggerating connections with people and just Martin's belief that he is this super important, bigger than life person, much more important and bigger than other people.
She's going right now to dock her video. Right now she's going to dock the video. And if there's problems, you will be the first to know.
Well, I know there's problems. The difference is, I'll do something about it.
Okay, I understand. Yeah, I'm going to take your complaint, is what I'm doing. That's the first step.
So when he says, I know there's problems, I suspect that he means, I know there's problems for the female police officer. I don't think that he means he's going to know there's problems for himself. I just don't think he would take accountability in that way, because he immediately follows it up by, and I'll do something about it. Again, trying to exert his status over the chief officer and trying to gain control, as always, because remember, that is key. That is like the end goal of all of the interactions of the narcissist.
How can you write a ticket for no registration when you've got a registration? I mean, as if I get a $150,000 car, I've lived here for 25 years and I don't register a car. Why do that?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Well, you tell me what the point is.
So mentioning the price of the car was completely irrelevant, but he says it in an attempt, again, to make the chief realise, how high status he is, how important he is, how high value he is in society. Again, just a massive self-entitlement and grandiosity. But interestingly, he also says, I've got this really expensive car. Why would I not register it? When that's actually the truth. He didn't register it. The registration's expired. So the car currently is not registered. So he is gaslighting the chief officer by using these contradictory statements and just trying to distract and divert even though it's the complete opposite of reality.
It's just a state statute that she enforces. She's not the only traffic officer that
Would you
writes.
give a ticket for that?
I really don't leave the office. I understand what you're saying.
I understand you have a video on there, but the fact is...
So the reason why he says, I understand you have your video on, is because the chief officer didn't answer in the way he wanted him to. So he had to say a statement like that, which is trying to imply, oh, if your camera was off, you'd obviously agree with me. So he's trying, again, to assert control over the chief officer in this situation. And remember, still at this point, Martin has took zero accountability for the fact that he wouldn't produce the registration initially.
Nobody in their right mind would give a ticket for that to me. Nobody.
I understand what you're saying, and you producing it, she probably should have taken that ticket away, but I'm going to find out what exactly occurred.
Because she had a bee in her bonnet because she thought she was on a big power trip.
Again, massive levels of grandiosity and a sense of entitlement. Example of projection. So he said she was on a big power trip. Clearly, the only one on a power trip throughout this whole video has been Martin Hyde, and that is as clear as day. He is now accusing her of the behaviours that he has been exhibiting.
Guess what? She's been there 7 years. She ain't going to make 8. I'll make sure.
Well, I'll get going on.
She ain't.
All right, listen, that's your prerogative.
And then at the end, he throws in a little attempt again to gain control via implying that he is going to have her job, that she's not going to make 8 years. And remember, this is to the chief officer. So he thinks that he can speak to the chief officer this way, that Martin Hyde somehow thinks that he can, puppeteer what police officers get hired and fired, which could, again, be an attempt to gaslight the chief officer into scaring him or making him feel intimidated that, oh my gosh, like if Martin can do this to her, maybe she can do it to me. Maybe I should fall in line here and do what he wants me to do.
I want to get
this
started.
This is not right, Emily.
Okay, I understand.
Right.
I think you'll find that it is right when you speed and text.
You don't treat people that have treated and supported your partner like that.
I understand where you're coming from.
Bare minimum of respect is yes sir, no sir. Not a word of it. Straight up. Talking to me like I'm a piece of dirt. Get back in your car. Which is this? She's standing, she's got a car door open and I'm leaning against here talking to someone. Okay? So, in case you get hit by traffic. Just being difficult. Okay? Just being cocky.
Complete projection. Throughout the entire clip, the female police officer was in no way rude, was very respectful, was very polite, never called him young man or darling once, always addressed him as sir. And now he is chronically lying and trying to project all of his behaviours onto her in an attempt at gaslighting the chief officer to believe his version of events, his reality, and again trying to triangulate them both, but all, remember, in an attempt to gain control over the people in the situation and the situation itself. It's not about the tickets. So Martin has obviously took the police officer's attempt to keep him safe by standing on the inside of the road on the footpath, which is obviously common sense, also as a threat to his control. Projection. The only person in this entire video that was being cocky was Martin. So again, projecting his own behaviours onto the female police officer.
I do understand where you're coming from.
But it isn't. It's a bad interaction.
Yeah, it definitely seemed like it was.
It's a bad. How difficult is it to come to me and say, you're doing 57, give us your license and your registration? Why get into immediately like that?
Again, projection. That's exactly what the female police officer did. Literally, word by word, that is what she did. She went up to his car. She was very polite. She said what he was doing, speeding and texting, and asked him for his license and registration. And then he does that motion, the little kind of motion with your hands of someone talking like bitchily. And that was him. He did it. He was doing that to her. Sense of entitlement. She knew who she was talking to. He obviously just wants, admiration from these people, and he is shocked that they've treated him this way and threatened his control in that way.
When she knew exactly who she was talking to. If that's how, no wonder you got people shooting people in Newtown if that's how you talk to people.
All right, Martin, I'll talk to you later.
And then he attempts to devalue the chief officer and I guess the police in general by stating, oh gosh, if I've been treated like this, no wonder there's been killings in Newtown. It has absolutely nothing to do with the situation that's just happened, which is you've been caught speeding and texting and your registration is expired. And he's just, again, using that Newtown as an attempt to distract. It's just a contradictory statement in an attempt to control those around him and control the narrative.
And writing tickets when someone's actually got the physical stuff, tell me that's me.
I understand. I do. Alright, I'll talk to you later.
But he, of course, forgot to include the bit where he initially would not present it to her and told her to look it up. So, yet again, another attempt at gaslighting the officer into believing his version of events.
Go to mute.
And you can only imagine what the two police officers were chatting about there. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed that analysis. And remember, this is just my opinion of the behaviours and manipulation tactics that I think he exhibited. And I hope you guys enjoyed it and found it informative. See you in the next one.